future editing version of me, I'm changing my score from an 8.5 that you'll hear later in the video to a 9 out of 10, because I think this game is actually really a lot better after I beat the final chapter, because the recording you're about to hear is me during chapter 4, or at least at the end of chapter 4 going into chapter 5. So when it comes down to things, yeah, I changed the score. And so when you hear the score saying it's an 8.5, disregard that. It's a 9 out of 10, honestly. And honestly, the reason why I say that is because I've seen reviewers and how they were talking about the game and all the stuff that kind of went into it. And yeah, now I think about it, yeah, it's like a 9. There's still issues with the game that I have that you will hear later, but I wanted to basically say that one just because, again, I feel like the game is a little bit better than what I originally thought it was, considering how dark Chapter 5 took it. So, when it comes down to things, it's a 9 out of 10. I'll give it that. So, without any further ado, here you go. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jason 4 here. Now, I know I said last video that I was going to do a double upload. I didn't lie. I was trying to. Someone was in the way. I couldn't necessarily hold that. But when it comes down to things, we're trying to do this now. So at least you'll have this. But on this video, I also want to mention that I'm not necessarily going to edit any pictures in. I'm just going to use the trailer. Because the next video, I will use pictures and stuff like that. Because it's probably either going to be the review of the game fully, or it's going to be literally talking about the waifus. So it's going to be either or when it comes down to things. But when it comes down to everything, I do want to talk about RainCode because I have had the chance to play it, and now I have seen a lot of the game, and I'm thinking I'm on the last chapter, which is chapter 5. And obviously you can't talk past chapter 5 because Spike will get on your ass, so I'm not going to necessarily bother with that. Unless people just talk about it anyway, then maybe I'll just talk about it. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, when it comes down to things, when it comes to RainCode in particular, when it comes down to all the gameplay aspects, that's what we're mainly going to talk about today. So when it comes down to the story of things, the story is obviously very Dangan-ish, honestly. You are an amnesiac type of person that doesn't remember shit, and so you basically go in this whole thing, going to this new place, being a detective, figuring stuff out, and basically seeing a whole bunch of murder all over the damn place. And it's essentially what you imagine RainCode would be by the creators of Danganronpa, obviously. A lot of Danganronpa-isms all over the place. Definitely a few good references here and there. But the game honestly references a lot of shit, honestly. Which is honestly very hilarious. But also, like, how y'all getting away with some of this shit? Like, Orcalum? How do you do that? That's a Square Enix shit. I know what you know about Orcalum. What you know about that Orcalum? What you know about that shit? You can't do shit with one Orcalum, my dude. You need at least 8 to 7 of them hoes to make the ultimate weapon. What you know about that? So it's honestly really funny to see that they use, at least in, you know, it's kind of funny to see how they kind of went about using certain references and just, you know, like making that like a big deal and whatever. And it's honestly insanely funny how they just keep going with it throughout the entire game. So that was like a nice little nod to like certain different anime and games and things of the sort, right? Or certain companies even, right? So that's like really damn good, honestly. I will definitely give you that. But obviously when it comes to the story of everything though, it's really fun. And also it does have its moments where it's just like, man, there's just a lot of heavy shit going down. I get all of it, but it's just a lot though. Because you're basically dealing with a whole bunch of people in this city who are just complete authority assholes who are just bullying the shit out of the civilians, and the civilians don't want this shit, but they still just let this shit happen because they kind of have no choice because the Amaterasu Corporation is literally running the damn show while the detectives are basically being treated like dogs trying to figure things out on their own and basically trying to figure things out by themselves and all that type of stuff, you know? It's just not easy. And the peacekeepers all around are just assholes. They got some fine ass peacekeepers, let me tell you that, 2 in particular, but definitely when it comes down to things, everybody in that group is just assholes, especially the damn director. That man ain't worth shit. But anyway, when it comes down to things of the gameplay, which you're mainly gonna deal with when it comes to gameplay, is just Yuma walks around and kind of does things, you know, and kind of just be a part of certain situations, whether he wants to be a part of it or not, and then basically do like some maybe running around here and there. Then you'll start the actual main line part of the quest, which will basically take forever, honestly. And then essentially when it comes down to things, you end up either seeing a dead body or discovering something, and so now you have to investigate the area, which the investigations didn't feel bad, honestly. Like, I didn't necessarily hate the investigations, honestly, because I was actually just overlooking things, and then hell, even overthinking things when it comes down to things, because I was just like, maybe they use this for this way, and then maybe that's how they escaped. And honestly, it was pretty damn nice, honestly, to use my brain for once. Majority of the game, I used my brain. I didn't necessarily take it ill on a lot of the game, or have to look up much of anything, honestly. There's only like one puzzle in the entire game that I looked up the answer for, which, honestly, I didn't know what the hell I was doing with that, but when it comes down to things, it was still fine though. That was like the only time I actually looked up anything on the game when it comes to like, what is the answer, right? No, there's no other point where I had to do that, so I feel kind of okay with majority of the gameplay. So when it comes down to things, obviously, once you investigate, you obviously gotta figure out what happened. You gotta get your solution keys, so the Shinigami that's by your side throughout the whole game will essentially, you know, help you out when it comes down to the mystery labyrinth. Something happens usually before you get to the mystery labyrinth where your life is in danger, and then now Shinigami will use the mystery labyrinth and whatever. And then so you go into there, and then it's like basically palaces from Persona 5. Except you can't necessarily sneak around and attack people, but you're essentially just running through it and trying to escape the dangers of that labyrinth, right? It's basically some Indiana Jones type shit, except it's way weirder and it's way different, because sometimes to even get past certain doors, the labyrinth itself would ask questions. So Shinigami sometimes has to slash your neck with blood coming out, and essentially the blood would have the question of what the culprit did, or how the certain situation is when it comes to the mystery or investigation. I'm not necessarily gonna hold you. That's a violent ass way to ask questions, I'm not gonna lie. But when it comes down to things, the mystery labyrinth is fun, honestly. There has been weird gameplay glitches, honestly. Like, sometimes when you turn the camera certain directions, the labyrinth starts to glitch out brightly, and I don't necessarily know what causes that. That was extremely weird. And hell, even certain points in the game during certain cutscenes, Yuma kinda, and the rest of the party kinda glitch out and pop in different places, and that's also a really weird thing that I don't necessarily understand. So hopefully they, you know, was decide to patch the game to make that stop happening, because that's really jarring and it happens a lot. Like, they are quick and you don't really notice it outside of the character popping, but still, it's like you worked on the game for 6 years. That should be something that you kind of would have solid, right? You know, that's something that you would probably have that wouldn't be causing too much of a problem, right? It's not like they're game-breaking glitches, but it's kind of annoying that they're there though, because it's just like, well, that kind of takes me out the scene. Why is Yuma just popping all over the place, fidgeting, and popping to one bookshelf to another bookshelf? That doesn't make any kind of sense, honestly, right? And maybe that was how that scene was kind of meant to be done, but still, you could tell that something was wrong technically. So yeah, that was a little weird of a thing that kind of happened when it comes to, you know, the cutscenes in certain moments. And then you also have, like, you know, the labyrinth kind of glitching with its settings kind of brightly and stuff like that. And that was just a weird thing, right? It doesn't happen a lot of the time, but it does happen pretty frequent to the point I have to mention it, honestly. So, you know, it is what it is. It's kind of like how Final Fantasy 16 has this problem too, but at least with 16, when it comes to the game, it only happens twice throughout the gameplay when I was watching someone else's gameplay. That something weird kept happening, but at least it only did it twice. It didn't do anything else any more than that. But RainCode has a consistent problem where the whole labyrinth would just glitch out on you, or, you know, the characters will pop up in different places where they ain't supposed to, or fidget around and shake a bit where they ain't supposed to. So that's a bit weird, honestly. But when it comes down to things, that's like the only other thing that I would say that was like it wasn't game breaking, but very noticeable in the game though. There really hasn't been any other game breaking glitch or anything like that at least I haven't run into. But to get back on a little bit on the gameplay, at least how you beat the labyrinth, every time you go to the labyrinth, you have to find the culprit, obviously. And when it comes down to things, the way to beat that culprit is by obviously challenging their claims and basically solving the whole case up. But the ending of it is every time you have to reach the soul of the culprit. If you don't, you're basically going to be screwed, and every time you do reach the soul of the culprit in real life ends up dying. So it doesn't necessarily matter if it's one person, or if it's 3 people, or if it's something else that involves another person, you know? The main culprit has to die, no matter who they are, or if it's just one person, or if it's plural people, you know? So it is what it is when it comes down to that too. The game really has this message of basically, is seeking the truth really all that's going to make things good? And from what I've been playing, no, it's not going to make you feel good. It's not going to be a good thing. It's why people lie a lot of the time. It's why people do scummy ass things a lot of the time, because they don't want to face the truth. But at the end of the day, the truth is the truth, and it is what it is. If you don't like it, oh well. It's like, it's an oh well type of situation, you know? And when it comes down to the entirety of like the cases that you have to deal with, where you have like 4, at least you're gonna have 5 chapters, I'm pretty sure. But when it comes down to things, you are going to deal with mainly, at least I can talk about 4 different types of investigations that you're going to deal with. And I would say the first investigation was really, like, when it comes to the Amaterasu Express, was also like one I didn't necessarily expect to go down the way it went down, but it did went down the way it just went down, where everybody in the detective agency that was going to Kanai Ward ends up dying on you. And that was something I wasn't necessarily expecting. And I was talking about this in the Danganronpa Death video, talking about how characters shouldn't necessarily just die off because they die off, because I genuinely would like to have known certain characters and stuff. In the Amaterasu Express, you had Poochie, which I really wanted to know more of, but they die immediately after you meet them. And it's just like, bro, I really wish we got to meet Poochie a little bit more. The game keep referencing, at least on the loading screen, Poochie a little bit, and it's just like, bro, stop teasing me about this woman. I would like to have met them, honestly, because they seem like a cool ass character. But no, we had to kill them off for the sake of story, which is hella insanely annoying, honestly, right? And that was just like another thing that was driving me up a wall when it came down to things, right? So honestly, the first investigation in chapter 0 teaches you how the game is basically done. Then prologue is just basically introducing you to the real cast of detective characters that you will meet. You know, that's going to be part of your party in the Nocturnal Detective Agency, or the NDA. Hilarious. In chapter 1, you had to end up stopping the nail man killings, which, yes, it is what it sounds like. Someone nails up people and kill them like that. That's a messed up way to do things, but that's what it was. Then you get, at least in that mission, you get to meet a fine ass, but also an attitude having ass nun, who is also kind of fine, but still, again, has an attitude. And then when it comes down to things, like, you also have in chapter 2, I think you have the school murder, honestly, which, why wouldn't you have that? Because Danganronpa loves to do that type of concept, which, that was honestly a really good one, because I really liked how the end result was when it came down to things. I was like, damn, y'all really did this for one person. That's crazy. And so, when it comes down to things, that was a fun one. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it wasn't like the worst thing. It definitely was a slog asking like a bunch of people different questions, going through different people, using, you know, Desahiko's forte. And that was really annoying, because you had to keep going back 3 times to ask people different questions, or at least trying to get answers. And then really, no, you had to do it 4 times, because you had to end up taking over the body, or at least, well, not take over the body, but look like Martina, and then honestly just asking questions again. And it's, again, really extremely annoying. So that's like, you know, that was like, if we want to talk about any part of the game that was a slog, that was a slog. That was truthfully annoying. I get why they did it, but man, that shit was just annoying. But then you also have chapter 3, where I believe you were taken into the resistance. I didn't really care for that plot line, but they did it anyway. I did like the characters that kind of, at least only like 2 characters that really shined out for that chapter, honestly, which is Fubuki, who is also your partner, because also everybody was like missing at that point in time, because the submarine that you're usually in got blown the hell up. So you kind of have to figure out what the hell happened to everybody, and then you're just running into Fubuki, who has the most goated ability in the entire game, which is time rewind. Which, why can you do that? Also, ain't that just a little bit busted? I'm not gonna necessarily hold you, but when it comes down to things, you know, that was a really good ass ability, and I wasn't necessarily expecting what she was gonna do with that. Also, I like in the translation, or at least maybe this is just a translation to English sort of thing, or maybe this is just English people just taking advantage of things. But granted, Danganronpa do a lot of crazy ass dialogue, so I wouldn't be too surprised if this was actually from the real translation, or they said this is okay, go for it. But the fact that Fubuki ended up saying that as she was working at that as a servant in that cafe, she was basically saying that she was dummy thick and called that by the customers. That shit was hilarious. I had to pause the game for 10 seconds just because I was like, they really said that. Okay, that's crazy. But that makes me think of things like, damn. So you mean Fubuki is kind of sexy though? Hold up. But anyway, when it comes down to things, you did have to do the whole resistance thing, like I said, and then that was kind of boring. Honestly, I didn't necessarily like the plots of that. And then with the second character that shined through was one of the peacekeepers that I was really looking forward to, honestly, which was Gilliam Hall, or Gillamine Hall, or something Hall. But when it comes down to things, the crazy toga chick, and I ain't gonna necessarily hold you, her personality, her evilness, everything about her, I loved it. Every single thing. You know, like, I ain't gonna necessarily lie. The moment I said, oh shit, I kind of want to see more of this character because she looks crazy and realizes how she is in the game, honestly, I was all for that, honestly, even though Dominic bitch ass could go somewhere. But still, I was all for, you know, Miss Hall being sexy as hell and honestly being, you know, on some Frieza ass levels because she was just calling everybody maggots and slaves and all that type of stuff. And also does very horrible fortune telling shit. But still, nonetheless, you know, I was like, hold up, I'm about to raise up this crazy chick. You think I can't do it? Please watch this shit. Even though I'm probably gonna get my ass stomped the hell out. But still, nonetheless, I was very excited to meet her. Of all the peacekeepers, that was the one character I was like, please be good. Let her be good. Like, don't get me wrong, Martina was like a bonus to me, but when it comes down to things, let me see Miss Hall, because that was the one I wanted to see more of anything. But yeah, she was solid though. But we'll talk about her in a different video and all the rest of the waifus as well. But when it comes down to things, the Peacekeeper, like I said, the Peacekeeper had some characters I liked, or at least had some characters I was like to hate at least. You know, I couldn't bring myself to hate Hall though. I just couldn't though. She's just bae. She's just absolutely bae. But anyway, the fourth chapter is honestly when you just go inside Amaterasu and a whole bunch of shit goes down, honestly. And that plot line was just insane. I wasn't necessarily expecting how that was gonna turn out. And then even the mystery labyrinth was confusing because something was blocking your path that only the main character knew what it was, honestly, but he didn't want to necessarily go out and say what it was, right? And I'm not necessarily going to say what it is exactly. You could probably take a guess if you look it up, or if you just don't want to necessarily know. You could probably take a guess on what character is being made the culprit here, but it was not obvious in the beginning because I was like, how is this possible? And then I was like, Nate, ain't no way they did that, right? And that's kind of how my thinking was the entire time, right? I was just guessing, right? Especially when it came to some of the doors of how certain things happened, because some of the answers were just weird, but it was supposed to be weird on purpose, right? And that was like a really cool segment. Honestly, I almost thought that was like the last chapter in the game. And then I was like, wait, there's so many more mysteries that we don't know though. Like, what is Kanai Ward's ultimate secret? We don't know that shit, right? And I still don't know it at the time of this recording. But when it comes down to things though, you know, that was a crazy ass chapter. Especially when they said when it comes to the robot that was kind of going through to find the doctor so they can try to, you know, see what happened to him and stuff. And that was like a super duper crazy part of the game. Because that was just like, oh, every time you end up like messing up with the robot gets electrocuted. But a part of that mystery is that the culprit was on top of the robot. So every single time that you went through the voltage room, every time you messed up, you killed the culprit. And Fubuki has to rewind time to make the culprit come back alive again. And so but you didn't know that at the time, right? And it was just like, so you mean to tell me every time you screw up, not only is the robot dead, but the culprit is dead too. And they know it too. And that's a horrible ass thing, right? That's just crazy, right? That was just absolutely insane. It ain't no little harmless voltage. That was some high ass voltage that they got hit with. So that was also insane. Granted, I only screwed up one time, so I don't feel too bad. The game tried to make me feel like, oh, you screwed up so many times. You screwed up like 4 different times. No, I didn't. I only screwed up once because I didn't know which way to start. After I knew where to start, I didn't screw it out once because I kind of knew where the game wanted me to go. You know, and technically I'm not counting Nesahiko, his nonsense, cause he wanna try to take over and shit. So technically he killed the person that was, you know, was trying to kill the doctor too. So technically I only screwed up once. We did the most same amount of wrong, honestly. So I don't feel too bad. But still, nonetheless, it was just a wild ass way how that went though, right? That was a dark ass thing. They showed you how they wanted to make you understand how dark that was, right? And that was just like a whole thing in itself, you know? And the last thing I guess I could talk about is maybe just some miscellaneous stuff. I just don't necessarily like when Yuma is just straight up talking about how he doesn't know certain things, and then every time something new happens, he has to repeat the name of the thing. Like, I know Danganronpa did that too, but I didn't think it was that damn bad, honestly, until I played this game, and Yuma has no freaking backbone whatsoever outside of rare moments. And that's the kind of the thing too with Yuma. He kind of blue balls you with how many times he can actually go hard on stuff, but he doesn't do it for a lot of the time, and it's just like, come on, dude. Stop being just a pushover. That's why so many people getting clapped, honestly. And that was just like an insanely annoying thing as well when it comes to him. Right? I can understand another character doing that because at least it's another character, it's not the main character. But when the main character keep questioning like, Kanai wore its ultimate secret. What should I do? I don't know. I'm helpless. And that shit is just mad annoying because every Danganronpa character has done that. Every single one. Every single one. And that was just annoying throughout the entire game, honestly. And it's still annoying because I ain't beat the damn game yet. But it's just insanely annoying when Yuma just questioning shit. It's just like, yes, this is what's happening. Shut up and just move already. And then sometimes he just, especially during the Resistance arc when he has a literal bomb attached to his wrist, he's like, oh, but I can understand him thinking about stuff, right? Because he's a detective. He has to think about certain things. But a lot of the time, he ain't really thinking about things. He's just saying like, I can't believe this, or like, what is that? Or being shocked about so many different things, or just wasting time. He would have been died, honestly. In a real situation, nah, Yuma would have been died, honestly. That just is what it is, because he just keep doing the same shit over and over, and that's insanely annoying. Shinigami also as well was super pessimistic in her ghost form, which honestly she has to kind of be because she is the literal, you know, person of death. But when it comes down to things, it just was like, you know, it wasn't honestly, I feel like her ghost form is way more annoying than her human form, because at least her human form she doesn't feel that annoying, but her ghost form she's just like a little annoying asshole or something that always has something to say, right? There's not never a dull moment when it comes to Shinigami, honestly. And I ain't gonna necessarily lie, Shinigami was fine as well. Again, we're gonna have to save for another video, but some of them poses I wasn't necessarily expecting. Like, even no, we gotta wait. We gotta say that for the video. Honestly, we gotta say that. I ain't got time to edit today. But point is, when it comes down to things, Shinigami with some of them poses, I was not expecting it. One time I called it on accident, and it was absolutely hilarious. And I had to screenshot that shit immediately. But yeah, definitely when it comes down to things, you know, Shinigami can be fun though. She absolutely can be fun, but she definitely has her morals all over the place in a way that is not necessarily, you know, it's not really something that you will be keen on, I would say. But when it comes to the game overall, I would say it's pretty damn good, honestly. I was also shocked about the sales that it had gotten. So it's actually sold pretty decently, I would say. It's not on the same numbers on Danganronpa's level, but it still sold pretty damn decently. I think halfway to what the numbers on Danganronpa usually sells. So that's pretty damn good, honestly. I'm not gonna necessarily hold you. But yeah, like I said, there's still some issues with the game, but it's not overly anything too bad. Honestly, I think you will enjoy the story if you're really looking forward to it. I will say that the dialogue is weak in some areas though, right? I will say this because I feel like they just keep pointing out things that either we know already, or it's like it should have been very obvious that they should have known this or something like this, right? And I do feel like there is like that hint of it where it could have been really stronger in dialogue. Honestly, I think Vivia might have some of the best dialogue in the game just because of how he was being about everything when it comes to, you know, chapter 4. honestly. But outside of Vivia, I would say everybody else kind of just didn't necessarily have really strong dialogue, honestly. Nothing that really carries, I would say. Maybe Shinigami did because she had like one word I didn't necessarily understand what she said, but still nonetheless, you know, it's not necessarily the strongest dialogue in the world. So again, kind of hope you don't expect going into it that it will have the strongest dialogue in the world, because sometimes it really just don't. It's just very, very weak, and it doesn't necessarily make sense why it's weak. But anyway, like I said, that's gonna be all I have for you for this one. The next video will definitely probably be either the finale or it's going to be the waifus, which definitely we're going to be talking about it, because I cannot necessarily lie, some of these waifus being hot. I ain't gonna lie. Halara, honestly, Davis knows how much. Oh, I don't know what Halara is. Is she a boy? Is she a girl? I'm pretty sure she's a girl, unless the game tells you, unless someone tells you otherwise when it comes to the creator side. But I'm pretty certain that she's a girl, honestly. Well, that was my dryer. But when it comes down to things, you know, you got Fubuki as well, and then also Electro and, you know, Miss Hall, fine ass. Like, there's a few characters that honestly deserves to be mentioned. So again, we'll say that for a different video. But definitely, that's all I gotta say for this one. I think this game might end up being like a 8 maybe just an 8 out of 10. I don't think there's anything groundbreaking, right? I don't think it's anything groundbreaking. But I do like that but RainCode tried something different with the mystery detective stuff, and it was fairly fun, honestly. Also, forgive me for any mess ups and things I said in this video when it comes down to things that kind of just sounded weird, honestly, because I'm only taking doing this one take and then recording, and that's about it. I ain't gonna necessarily cut out anything. But when it comes down to things, it's just like, you know, like I said, it's like a fine game. Right, I do feel like you could see the 6 years worth of time that they put into it to be really good, but also there is moments in it where, you know, you're just like, this could have been better, right? And then also I will say, I really hope that they do put this game on PC and on like console, because I'm not gonna hold you, a lot, and I do mean this, a lot of the game kind of looks ass on Switch. It's only rendering at 1080p. Imagine what this game would look like as a next-gen game for real, and imagine how pretty this game would actually look with everything else, right? So I hope at some point in the future they will decide to bring this game on PC or something like that, because the bitrate in the game shows, especially when you're about to wrap up the whole case with the whole, you know, denouement part of the case, right? It's just like, that shit is bitrate hell. But when it comes down to things, that's essentially all I have for you today, so hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out. Also follow me on the socials. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, Patreon is available as well. And until then, it's your boy Jay, signing off. Have a blessed day.